Sheer amount of information in this case could have journalists around the world busy for years. More than 11 million documents, some dating back more than 40 years. 12 or more current or former world leaders. It very well could top its namesake, the infamous Pentagon Papers, for depth of corruption and bringing down some of the world's truly powerful. Next, the journalism standpoint. Our guest is former staff writer for the Wall Street Journal, now covers foreign affairs at Forbes, and as a blogger for PJ Media. Nice to welcome back Claudia Rosett to the show. Claudia, it's always a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you from a journalistic standpoint now. I just mentioned a couple of the things here. The size of this is absolutely incredible to get your arms around here. The terabytes of information that were handed over by an anonymous source who was involved with this company, this law firm. Where do you think this is going to take us? I mean, just looking at it from this perspective, we've got to believe that it's more than just 12 people. This has got to be a lot bigger.
Yes, it does. And at the same time, we've had tremendous dumps of incriminating data before. Not terabytes, I grant you. That's very intriguing. And actually, I would love to know, are the Iranians in there someplace? But actually, we live in a time when things like this keep happening. It's just the scale keeps growing. And nothing about it, it's terribly interesting. It's not surprising because this is how people get around things like sanctions, taxes, all these regulations. And Panama actually has been a source of intrigue and thriller-style entertainment on this front for a long time. We're just getting a much better window into it through this than we've had so far.
You mentioned the Iranians, and of course now there are going to be people asking questions. I've already heard some people say, all right, maybe it then winds up in America one day because they're concerned about where this is. Now you're nodding your head on this. You really think that, and because we're just scratching the surface of this, that there've got to be people here in America, Canada, Europe, England, other countries right now that are really sweating tonight.
Well, look, yeah, actually it occurred to me, this kind of leak, if somebody else at another, remember, this is one law firm, apparently, which did about half the business in Panama, but one law firm in one place that is a well-known haven for this kind of thing. You know, what's going on if you had access to the law firms in Hong Kong, the Seychelles, Cyprus, Malta, Liechtenstein? Remember, this is just a little slice. This is only one law firm in Panama that we're seeing. And that's been this huge swath already. Yeah, I'm intrigued that the son of former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, Kojo Annan, remember him with the Mercedes scandal? Apparently, he turns up in this trove. He had a front company in Samoa. I didn't know that, which he used to buy a flat in London. Now, there's nothing to say that that was illicit, but it was interesting to see the breadth of this web. That is worldwide business today. And when people start looking for ways to evade it, it is so easy. I mean, this is one thing that should really have us thinking is, what does this mean for trying to enforce sanctions where you're trying to actually follow the money? It gets very hard.
What does this then mean for a journalistic community that is beaten up quite a lot in America and other countries? I'm a journalist. I've been one my entire career. I yearn for these kind of stories where you can dig into something like this. This was an anonymous individual, a John Doe, who sent all of this on, all of these journalists working together. Doesn't this show that there is a power here that we have got to use, that journalists have got to use? You can nail the bad guys here because there could be money involved in here for weapons, for influence, for so many other things. This is a critical time for journalism and real journalists to act.
It is, and you're absolutely right, and they should. And in fact, this is one of the things where it becomes fascinating to be a journalist, to follow this kind of a trail. I am less confident that this is going to lead to some big shakeup in world politics for the simple reason that we've seen incredibly incriminating things leaked before, between what spilled out from Iraq under the Oil for Food program, where, by the way, the former UN director had his front company in Panama. Apparently with a different law firm, since his name hasn't turned up here. So we wait for the next dump, don't we? But, and yet, and we saw it with WikiLeaks, we've seen a lot of things that have come out, and yet what you see in the main are prosecutions in a country like the United States if something turns up here, and maybe in Europe, and then it sort of tails off.
And we'll have to stop there, unfortunately, because
Sure.
we're out of time. But you're exactly right. 2.6 terabytes, 11.5 million records, and this is one firm that has been involved. Stunning to think where we could be going from here. Claudia Rosett, thank you so much for joining us. From stashing cash to collecting votes, the meaning of Wisconsin in this POTUS cycle. Next on The Hardline.